I mean, green, when you think of Puerto Rico, that's one of the first things that comes to mind. There's plenty of sun, there's plenty of wind, there's clean water. There seems to be a lot to build on to propose a different way forward. Instead of highways choked with cars, all burning oil that come from somewhere else, maybe another way to get around the island. It's very difficult without a car. Unless you were a pile of sugarcane, you weren't traveling by rail. And we seem to have sort of frozen the clock in 1965 or something when it comes to transport, when it comes to energy sector, when it comes to a lot of things. And now there's a lot of money to be made in being green.
It's, I tell you, it's the task force. One of the things the task force recommended was that Puerto Rico should become the energy center for the Caribbean. Why? And you would say, how come? Well, our Puerto Rico Power Authority has excess capacity as it is. It is just that it's based on oil, and we need to diversify it, make it natural gas, among others. There are wind and photovoltaic projects in the pipeline. One of the largest photovoltaic projects is about to start in the south coast of Puerto Rico. That's solar power. Vieques, I proposed that Vieques become a green plan for Vieques, and the task force picked up on it. You mentioned it. It can be done. So I agree. By the way, we're looking at connecting Puerto Rico with the USVI for energy purposes, because believe it or not, their cost of energy is higher than ours.
Wow.
And the same in other islands in the Caribbean. So that would be, it would be an underwater cable, and that would be the first step to do an energy grid for the whole Caribbean. So there are projects on their way, but I agree with the premise of your question. I mean, we need to make Puerto Rico greener, avoid all this pollution that burning bunker diesel oil creates, reduce emissions, use all this wind and power and sun we have for a good purpose. And we will. It'll take some time, but we will.
You know, you can charge top dollar to tourists who are interested in a green experience. Ecotourism, now where are they going? They're going to Costa Rica, not to Puerto Rico. And Vieques would seem to be a very promising place. I understand that those aren't the greatest jobs in the world, but they're jobs in a place that doesn't have enough jobs.
Well, I think I'm pro green energy, and I think we should use it responsibly. I don't believe building a pipeline across the island is the way to go. There are other alternatives. Presently, there is a program by the present administration that wants to build a pipeline across the island that it will be very dangerous to the population. There's a lot of opposition to that. I think there are other alternatives like solar and wind energy and some of the alternatives that the Commissioner Resident mentioned before. But I think that the present program that the present administration has for Puerto Rico to build a pipeline is just to make a few people rich out of putting the population in danger by building a pipeline across the island.
A big controversy with the gasoducto, right?
Gasoducto,
but solar's not ready to take the place of all that natural gas. How do you get it from one place to another without building that pipeline?
Well, I'm sorry, I don't know if you were going to...
Well, there are infrastructures presently now that they can be utilized to do this job that a pipeline will do across the island.
Robert, you wanted to say?
Yeah, the pipeline project, it's been very controversial back in the island, and we read in the headlines and all that. Whether the permitting process, I think what folks also were very skeptical was perhaps some of the things that came out about the permitting process, fast track, and of course, we're Puerto Ricans by nature, we're a little skeptical basically on everything, So that that did not help. Now, as far as the pipeline going from one side to the island to the other, well, you have pipelines from Alaska going to California. Okay, well, one can say, well, nothing major has happened. Okay, fine, but you still have that risk. Like, an investment, it's a high-risk investment, not only for the investor, but for the local population as it goes to certain areas. One can argue that. However, like you mentioned, what's our path? If we're behind in our wind farms, if we're behind in our solar panel projects, then is this something that we're going to use short-term That's the question. And then as we develop the other means of clean or renewable energy, that's the question we need to ask ourselves and be clear whether you're in the present administration or the next administration that comes on board. It's like, okay, bring the plan and be clear about it. Okay, we're going to do this, and here's our path to the other programs as far as whether there's a clean energy and renewable energy. Because there's two different things. You have clean energy is one thing and renewable energy is another thing. So, and basically educate the population on the differences and what's our way forward with a comprehensive plan that if there's a change in administration, things are going to keep moving forward. Because that's a lot of times our problem. We start a project and then when the next party comes on board, they just kill it. We're just killing ourselves, you know? So we need to be clear on our path, and I think the time has come to establish a plan like Ireland did in Australia. Make a 20-year plan, everybody get together and stick by it, and at the same time, as we're moving, whether it's on the renewable or clean energy projects, the status issues being talked about, but we're moving forward, and if anything changes, we got to keep going forward, so the investment, not only from the local businessmen in Puerto Rico, but also from externally and from the U.S., still comes in and see that consistency.
Because there's not scale yet, is there? I mean, you just can't do renewables at the scale that you can create energy with natural gas.
Hawaii is moving forward. Hawaii is very similar to our economy.
Let me say a bit about this. There was an environmental impact statement process before this pipeline project came about. It considered other alternatives, such as, for example, bringing natural gas in barges to different ports in Puerto Rico, but it's costlier. It can be even the permit process would take longer. So, and there are pipelines all over this city, in Washington, all over America for natural gas. There is a federal agency that regulates these pipelines and regulates the safety, components of the pipelines. And I understand that, for example, people living close to, it'll go 4 feet under the ground. And communities, the closest they can get is about 150 feet from the pipeline. And I understand that in making this type of decisions, there'll always be people opposed. That they'll say, why go through here? But you have to look at the total picture. And this will mean 15% reduction in the electricity bills in Puerto Rico, residential, industrial, and commercial. As I said before, cost of doing business is key in Puerto Rico. And you will get this benefit while you develop wind projects, solar projects, as we should. So I agree, the goal should be clean energy. And renewable energy should be the goal. But in the process, reduce the cost of electricity in Puerto Rico, which is twice as high as in the mainland. And that's what this is all about. It has been controversial, but it is for a good purpose, and I believe it should go forward.